And we are recording. Okay, good evening again, everybody. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, here we go again. Okay, first up, the 2024-2025 budget deliberations. So I think the plan is to take each account in order this time, and we can go through and talk about where we'd like to go, and we will make the motions as we come along. So first up for discussion is account 10-100, Selectmen. So any I guess I can make the motion. We'll discuss.
Yeah, should we do 105 first? Or is it 100? 100.
10-100. Yeah, that's kind of the order for the budget vote.
I make a motion that we accept 10-100 as is.
Okay. So do we have to say the numbers there, Brad, as I recall? I think you'd have to, right?
I think typically somebody's read it off.
Okay. So in this case, for account 10-100, I make the motion that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10-100 in the amount of $296,386.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I guess I should say the ayes have it. I was wanting to say that. Next up, 10-105, Economic Development. I make a motion that we, make sure I say that's right again. I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10-105 in the amount of $88,077.
Second.
There a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Hey, Dan,
Yes,
just for the speed, to get the administration, can you do the education?
I guess we can.
You know, just to give them a break.
I'm sure did not recognize.
I'm sorry. It's inappropriate for the public to comment.
I think maybe we should do them Thursday. What do you think, guys?
Well, they'll go home.
Yeah, you know what? That's easy enough. I think we can do that. So, yeah, right.
Well, Mary, can you leave off on 105?
Can I do what?
I got you.
Just so you know where we're at. I don't want you to
Right.
get lost because of Mr. Ellis's outburst.
So I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for account 70-450 in the amount of $1,591,968.
Well,
That's not-
I need more.
Sorry. I say, wrong column.
You're fine.
Wrong column. Let's try this again.
What is happening?
No, I misspoke. I was just looking at the wrong column. It didn't.
The increase.
I was thinking about reading the number, and I apologize, everybody.
No.
Okay, I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 70-450 in the amount of $54,751,132.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? As we said, this is probably the best budget. I think
Great
we've seen in a
budget.
long time.
Very,
So thank you.
very good. Hard work. Good work.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Let's talk about the education maintenance. Let's see if I got this here.
We'll just get to it.
Okay, so I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 70-460 in the amount of $526,017. Have a second. We can discuss this.
So
Let's
I don't know if
We're
you
talking
have to
education
open it at the original number, then make a motion.
Yeah,
to
you-
change
and then we
it.
have to motion it.
we have to motion for discussion.
Oh, for
and then-
discussion.
And then you can talk
Fair enough.
about
Okay.
any cuts.
So we can make the motion then. Okay, so in this case, we'll amend it afterwards. So I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 70-460.
You just
No,
want
it's
to
just discussion?
Just discuss.
Okay,
Just
I move that we
discuss.
discuss account 70-460
In the amount of
In the amount of.
In the amount of
right, not that we're
$620,017. For
Second.
discussion. Okay,
Nice.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, I don't know that parliamentary, I don't know that we have to make a motion.
I don't think you need,
to
I
do
think
that,
you
like-
just need to open it for discussion at the 6:26.
Yeah, and we don't need a motion, we can actually discuss it.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
and then you would make a motion to make any
Fair-
changes.
fair enough.
Yeah.
but we made a motion that didn't do it. So what I'm suggesting is we remove $100,000 from this account. And the goal is to make sure that we handle some of the things that are in this account in other places. We happen to know there's a few capital expenses in there. And we can find more, but literally taking 100,000 will take some off of this. Now, I'll also say that I believe this funding, the number is correct. You've been looking at about $600,000 per year for a long time, and you've been taking it out of places you probably shouldn't have. And we do want to get to that. But I think this year for the taxpayer, we're going to try and find some other ways to fund that. That's my take on cutting it. Which is why I was looking at 526,017. What do you guys think?
I'll support the motion if you make it.
Richie, how do you feel?
And only if you're gonna find the money somewhere else, because
Yeah.
the work needs to be done.
Yeah. There were a couple specific things I'll just throw out. The HVAC auto software, they talked about 35K, the dumpster enclosures, 27K plus, Berry School main office, the carpet, 10,000. And I think there's a couple other things that
Just,
we literally can go look at from somewhere else. That are things that were there for.
do you have an idea where somewhere else is?
I would like to entertain coming out of ARPA for some of that, but that's probably for another time.
I would support that one.
Okay.
I'll support your motion to reduce the line item as long as we can find the money somewhere along.
Okay. By the way, that doesn't prohibit us
I
from-
know this account
Yeah.
grows every year, but everything is getting older now. The systems have to replace, install electronics, and
Well, I mean, Rich,
it's not where you're just going and adjusting a valve anymore.
yeah, but it's not like we haven't done anything. I mean,
Oh, no, no.
we've renovated the schools. We've made a huge commitment to upgrade the HVAC. I mean, when the school comes to us with a need, we just don't leave them like dangling off a bridge. Generally, we're gonna do the right thing, but I agree with Dan's motion and that we can find the money in other places to fund this.
Okay.
So with that, I move that the Board of Selectmen recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 70460 in the amount of $526,017.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Let me get your jacket.
I'll take
Oh, my God.
Start anybody's there.
So next up on the hit parade is 10-110 treasurer.
Open for discussion.
So here's the thing, let's talk about this because we've done this. We do not need motions to open things for discussion. So we're kind of
No,
doing this.
just,
So I'm gonna,
just make a new motion to approve
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to reduce it, you can.
and then we can reduce it. All right. So in this case, I recommend the Board of Finance, I recommend that the Board of Selectmen recommended the Board of Finance funding the account 10-110 in the amount of $5,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
Ooh, I gotta overlook this.
Yeah, we gotta do some work on that.
We gotta do some work on this budget with salaries.
All right. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for account 10-120 in the amount of $452,057. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10130 in the amount of $266,452.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10140 in the amount of $278,459.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call your minds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 10150 in the amount of $232,982. Any discussion? All right, we have our prior minds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10160 in the amount of $306,180.
Second.
Okay, so discussion. We had taken, what, 30,000 of this already?
Yeah, so the original draft of this budget that I put together with Sevi called for legal fees going to 290,000. It brings us to the 3-year average. The 5-year average is like 240. We looked at the whole thing and went, let's dial that back and try to get to the 290 over 2 years. And this, the legal fees, as you can see in the history, do jump around a lot. We don't know what it's going to be, to be honest with you. So moving it up 30,000 is a step in the right direction. 60 would have been better, but when we look at this budget as a whole, we're trying to do right by the taxpayers, and so that's why we dialed it back.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I recommend that the board, I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 10170 in the amount of $7,500. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I move that we recommend for the Board of Finance funding for the account 10190 in the amount of $429,538. Second by Second Street.
This is another account that when I presented it, we removed $20,000 from the first draft of this for the budgeting software, which obviously we're not using this year. Initially, we thought about keeping it in case we went back to it. When Dan and I talked about it, we decided to take it out. We're not using a budgeting software this year. If we decide to go back that route for 26, we'd have to add it back in the future year. But why keep it in there? We know we're not doing it right now.
Richie wants to know if you have an abacus.
All right. Any further discussion? I'll try your minds. All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
There's an app.
All right, motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10-210 in the amount of $1,370,371. For a second. Okay. You want to go ahead?
I want to ask Brad.
Yeah, you might want to ask a question about this one, about the cap.
What's your question?
I just wanted to know, on our property and liability insurance, when you say that it's capped at 3%, so you took our actual costs last year and multiplied that by 3%, or did we take on additional properties, or?
So that the 3% cap is on our Kerma piece, which is our balloon umbrella is not the.
I understand what it is.
We also carry cyber insurance, flood insurance in there. So you don't. Yeah, so there are some properties, if it's in a FEMA flood zone, it's not covered by our umbrella, so we carry additional coverage for that.
Which ones of our properties are in flood?
Actually, it doesn't affect some of these because the police station's out. It's water and sewer stuff. So we carry those. It actually is not in this because they're in. So yes, I took last year's and I bumped it up to 3% on the cap. Based on the last year number was, what it was. If we actually bought this fire truck, that would eat up some of that because if you add assets, it's going to increase. I'm also hopeful that this number comes down. Right now, they're telling me the max they could increase it is 3%. They're saying right now we're gonna increase it to 3%. We've had pretty good claims. I go back to them around the time of the public hearing and town meeting and go, can you do better? They just gave this number 3 weeks ago. They're not gonna do better at this point. I'm hoping these aren't our final numbers and it'll come down some.
So they came in at 596, 845.
Yeah, when you add the other pieces in it, like sign. But yes.
Then the workers' comp, that's set, same as last year. And
Yeah.
what was our actual cost last year?
So the prior year was 742, 770. You got to factor into the fact that it's flat is good because payroll's gone up.
Yep.
So, it's actually in theory a decrease, but as long as we stay within normal increases in wages, they're keeping us flat. And they consider normal like 3%. Some are higher, some are lower. So
What do you think it'll come in at?
last year, when we finally went back for the final number, they went down, I think, 1%. We, knock on wood, we've had great comp experience lately. But when they give us a renewal rate in January to cover 17 months out, really through June 30th of 25, their first number then is usually the worst number. But we will go back and try to get a lower number, but we really can't go back till like late March, early April to get that. I believe last year at the town meeting, we adjusted it. So we're watching it. This is right now, worst case scenario. This is the only part that we know right now. And we'll see the same thing when we get to health insurance.
And just a question, if we reduce this line by 10,000 and just said, we're pretty sure it's gonna come in at 2.5%. Or if we reduced it by a certain amount and then said, don't reduce it any further, just in case you buy a fire truck or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be doable or are you too nervous?
I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do, to be honest with you. Kerma, last year, for the first year that we were eligible for it, did not issue a rebate to us. The prior year was like $70,000. The reason they didn't, there's a neighboring town that had a bad experience with a fire at their high school. So Kerma lost money on that last year. So
That was a roof fire.
yeah. So in other years, I might have more comfort with saying 10,000 out of 600,000. Yeah, they might come down that. I don't know right now because we're kind of in new territory because they had that large claim. So, but I do promise if it does come down, I'll bring it back.
Prior to our
Prior
town
to
meeting.
us setting a mill rate, before setting a budget. So,
I'm fine with it.
but we have a history. I think
Yeah.
Nick remembers that we have adjusted.
We got time to adjust this.
I'm good with it, Brad.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate your work.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that's curious. Let's have it. Okay, so I'll play your way on this one. I move that we have a discussion about account 10-250, which is requested at $329,148.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All in favor? Aye. Okay, let's have a discussion.
Let's do it.
Yeah, listen, I think the one thing we were looking here, is that this year, there's $35,964 a year to make a part-time position whole. I think down the line, we need it. There's no question, but I think in the spirit of everything we've been doing, this is not the year to push it because there are other things that are probably more important in this budget. Specifically engineering, it's really important, I just don't think the 35,000 right now.
35,964.
The 35,964 would be the reduction. That's my take.
Did you make a motion?
Not yet, we're discussing.
I mean, I'll support your motion.
One thing I don't have, I'm gonna have to go through and I'm gonna have to reduce. We have the,
I can give you the new number because I'll
You
look
give
at
us
the
the new number?
spreadsheet as we go.
Oh, you come up with the medical and stuff good. Because Brad, you'll do that.
that'll be on the back end.
So
On-
typically for
on-
new positions that have benefits, I don't
Okay,
increase the health insurance. We don't really know.
no problem.
Um,
So it won't change.
So with that, what would the total be?
so you'd have to make a motion for the new salary line being 259,484,
259,
$484.
84, what would the total be?
And the total would be 293,184. And I believe you need to make a motion to reduce the line and then a motion for the total.
I believe so. Okay. Okay, I make a motion that we reduce line 5101 salaries to the total of $259,484.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 10250 in the amount of $293,184. Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 10330 in the amount of $156,275. Second. Okay, so, we had a lot of back and forth on this because of the increase there for early voting is the biggest part of the number. They've had some office expenses that have gone up, really postage and notifications, but yeah, the big one is early voting. I trust where they're coming.
Well, I think
So-
they do a great job budgeting every year.
Yeah, I do too.
They're excellent.
So this is gonna be a whole new world. Any,
I have a question.
yes, Rich.
And their salary lines,
Mhm.
are they looking for the $2,000 extra in their salaries now?
Yeah, so they're looking, so this
Yeah.
reflects $1,000 increase to both registers, which this board can't do. It go to the Board of Finance.
That's what.
But I think
Yeah.
if the Board of Selectmen vote on the total that includes it, it's then up to the Board of Finance. It doesn't actually do anything
Yeah.
until the Board of Finance does that.
And given with the increase of what they have to do now, with early voting for 2 elections per
Yeah,
year,
that is,
that's what.
oh, and I thought that was something that you did after the budget.
You can recommend it during the budget?
So under
Yeah.
the current chairman of the Board of Finance, who shall not be named,
Handsome man.
the Board of Finance has been doing it through the budget process, has been setting elected official salaries.
Okay.
Just to be more transparent.
Yeah.
During the budget season.
So to your point, this board cannot change those salaries, but you could, if you left the money in there, it really doesn't.
I mean, you're talking about $1,000 raise for each
Yeah,
registrar.
well, I was just,
Yeah.
how the process worked in the past, so it's, I'm a past person.
It's a true statement.
Oh. Let's have some decorum on this board. Okay,
Okay.
with that, we have a motion on the table. Try your minds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay.
And 340.
Yeah, just take this all the rest out of the way here. All the rest of the stuff. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10340 in the amount of $68,600. Any discussion? Everything's remained flat.
Yeah, the prior actual is because we didn't have charter revision or anything like that on the thing.
Correct.
We added the money for it.
Yeah.
Understood. Yep.
Okay, with that, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10380 in the amount of $2,135,511.
Second.
Did I say that right?
No,
I
it's
screwed that up.
okay.
I
We
apologize.
understand.
Oh, it's $2,135,511. Thank you. I caught it.
Didn't
Can
sound-
I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
We had a long
I think we got a
discussion.
lot of
Yeah,
discussion
we
about
had
this
a
one.
lot of discussion. so.
Brad, thank you for breaking out both pieces of this with the 319,000, so it's very clear and transparent. So there's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 10390 in the amount of $6,942,518. Now, the one thing we've talked about on this is hospitalization, right, Brad?
Correct. So right now, the state of Connecticut is talking 3 to 5% is their official term or not what they're saying. They will get us final numbers for renewal in March. Dan and I were at a conference, was that a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And the state of Connecticut comptroller is not nearly as good as our local comptroller.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Sean
And
Scanlon.
unimportant. Yeah, that's
That's
it.
a good guy.
I hear his
Um,
assistant does a great job for him.
They're thinking it's gonna be more closer to the 3 than the 5, but until they finally come out with that, we won't know. But again, if they come out and say it's 3, I'll adjust these numbers when we get it. And then either if it's,
You
In
in
between
between
the-
60, 70,000.
70,000.
yeah, each percent's like 1%. Each percent is like 35 grand.
35 grand. That would be huge.
So, and 2 years ago, they were at 10.5%. Last year, I think it was closer to the 5 range. So I think some of the after COVID, there's huge increases because nobody did anything elective during COVID because you couldn't. So they had huge increases right after COVID. I think that's starting to settle back down. Obviously, it's starting to settle down because they're talking about 3 to 5. But whenever we get that final number, at that point, it'll be a Board of Finance budget, but I'll turn that over to them and I assume they'll make that adjustment.
No, I was gonna say, I'm the same. I was excited about this because his underling, when we stopped at the table, said, oh yeah, I think it'll be closer to 3. He went up there and said it's gonna be closer to 2.
Yeah.
So I think 3 is about right.
So,
Go ahead.
so FICA is just based on salary increases. So
Yeah.
all the contractual increases, you had to pay additional
Yeah.
money for FICA.
Any further discussion? Okay, with that, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 10-405, say it one time, 10-405 in the amount of $649,659. Now we'll have some discussion here actually, because this is one of those where I was recommending we take some of the money out of the paramedic intercept and use, some other funding, specifically ARPA, if we could do it. So what happened here, our paramedic funding went up $540,000. It was like $120,000 increase this year. And looking at where we've been, we're looking at, 150,000 because we've been funding the account. So if we would take 75,000 out of this, it'd be a little bit nice thing for the taxpayer this year, but knowing next year we'd have to go up another 75,000. The only thing that may happen now and then, we might get a better deal with them, maybe trying to get a better deal with the paramedic and the EMTs, but right now this would be a nice thing to take out of there.
Right.
How do you feel, Rich? Any discussion?
I support reducing it, but not taking it out of our funds.
Okay. Then we'll revisit that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, with that, I'll amend my motion. And so we have to, make sure I do this right. I move that we change line 5366 paramedic intercept from 450,000 total to, what is that, 375,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. For a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then what's the total, Brad?
The new total will be $574,659.
Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10405 in the amount of $574,659.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion carries. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10410 in the amount of $3,053,208. I would second.
Second.
Want to go over Brad, just kind of, because this is a big one, and where utilities are?
Yeah, so, sorry, let me switch on here. Get it right.
Okay, I can.
No, so, utilities have been growing out of control for years. They're starting to settle in a little bit. One of the biggest things growing up the utility line, the 5321, that even though we're locked in for our electric supply rate for another, I think through December of 25, delivery just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. You can't lock in what the delivery rates are. It's set, I'm pretty sure they're set through Puro, but they've been increasing. This also includes our Amoresco energy plan payments, which are only up $2,500, but it's in there. Electric's up $192,000, but it's the delivery. Natural gas is actually down $60,000. We're currently locked in at $1.23 per therm through November 30th of 24. This budget calls for $1 per therm. We haven't locked in yet. We've been watching it weekly. The last number we got was like 95 cents per therm, 93 cents per therm, but then you got to add 5.69% fees in there. So right around, when you factor both those, it's right around $1. They're talking about maybe it dropping a little bit. If it drops a little bit, I'll bring that recommendation to the Board of Finance when we lock it in. Right now, with what we're being told, budgeting $1 per therm seems where, with what we know now, I'm comfortable with. If it drops 5 cents, you're not talking huge changes. You might be 10, 15 grand or whatever it is. And that's where we're at. Street lights are up. It's the delivery piece. Eversource did us a favor in the fact that Eversource years ago changed I'm pretty sure it's every street light in town now is LED. So we're not using as much energy, but the delivery charges go way up. And gasoline is just up based on what we've been using. We looked at locking. Right now we're locked in through June. We're still watching it. The last price that we got were slightly higher. This is at the rate that we're currently locked in at. It doesn't seem like it's going as crazy, but we're not going to lock in higher right now, but we're watching it. So.
Can I ask you on the Amoresco?
Yeah.
I know we're paying $293,454 this year.
Yeah.
And we have about 7 years left.
Yeah.
Does this start going down over the next 7 years, or?
It goes up slightly every year. About like this year, it's up $2,500.
What was the total cost of this project to the town?
It's going to be $4 million or $4.5 million, and it's at a 2% interest rate.
And how much energy savings was there?
So it's actually one of the things Dan and I discussed earlier today. So I went back to 2017, what we were paying for this line 5321, and I took what we budgeted in 2017, and I went up 3% a year. And at 3% a year, it got us right around the $2.7 million. So normally things you'd go, oh, well, 3% might be a little high. Utilities, 3% is probably been low with what we've seen. If you did 5%, our utility rate would be up $450,000 more than what we're budgeting right now. So to answer your question, no idea. How much of it would this account be higher if we didn't do it? That is so hard to calculate it. Would this number be higher if we didn't do the solar? From what our energy expert in town tells us, yes. It is so complicated to try to figure out what those are.
Well, plus we replaced a lot of equipment.
Yes, there was
So,
equipment.
so
there
that's
was-
the,
yeah,
we would have had to pay for it.
yeah,
That's where your savings really came in.
yeah. They replaced LED lights. They put in new toilets. They put in HVAC in the GP room. They did some stuff in the schools, not the two that we knew we were going to renovate. It was a huge project. Are we receiving huge savings from it because we did it? My guess is there are, because trending at 3% in utilities over the last 7-8 budget years is actually really good compared to what we're seeing out there. Like, I'm sure you see it with the banks, like what the energy costs. Everybody sees it with what their home energy is going up. It's a huge dollar amount we pay every year though still. And when this account still continues to climb, we go, should we have done this? Looking at what we've increased, my guess is we've probably made out fairly well doing it. But we've also locked in our energy at a 5-year clip 3 years ago. You know, like when that contract's up, this account's going to jump. So how much of it is what we did on the finance level to maintain costs? It's
So you were able to lock in your kilowatt rate? What do you
Yes.
guys lock it in at?
But oh, wait,
it's like, I think it's 8.5.
0.815.
So
Now it's like, maybe you could get 12 if you're lucky.
the last municipal lock-in that we heard was 10.5. So municipals tend to do better on some of these stuffs because
But the delivery is kind of like just, I mean, I don't understand it every time I look at it because it seems like it's used based on your consumption. The higher your consumption, the higher your delivery rate, right?
yes, there is. When I look at like what percentage the delivery versus the consumption, I looked at a bunch of bills and you get like a kind of range, but it's not even consistent. So there's got to be some tailing off. It's a bigger count versus lower count. It is insanely complicated, and I think that's on purpose, to be honest with you.
Now, if the rates go down on the municipal level, you could lock in at any time. Like,
We can add years to the end of it, yes, which we probably will start doing soon to try to tack on. What I don't want to do, especially right now, is sometimes they want you to blend. I don't want, because of what this budget looks like right now, to blend our 25 and increase it. We're already up 6% in this account and go to 9% in it. That necessarily help 26, 27, 28 because of what this budget looks like. But we will look at tacking on at some point. We're a little far out right now. And again, if we magically get the same exact rate, delivery is still going to be what's driving, you know. But right now, if we're at 10.5, the market rate saying 10.5, and we're at 8 and an eighth, like it's 2.5% just on our supply. 2.5, not 2.5%, 2.5% would be great.
Sure.
any further questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. If it's okay with you, gentlemen, I would like to, because I didn't realize we have our illustrious library director. Steve here. Would you mind if we go to the very end, by the second last page?
I didn't want to say anything, but I appreciate you.
I
You did
totally-
say
I-
that.
Yeah, we're looking at account 6435. It's almost the very end there. Apologize, maybe for keeping it hanging, but
I think she was enjoying our delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're welcome to stay.
so-
She was smiling a lot.
We're
during our
pretty
thing.
funny, aren't we?
I
yeah,
mean, she even came for the school's deliberations.
I know, right?
Dan, I don't think she's actually going to leave when you're done, but.
Yeah, you don't have to.
It's time together.
You are welcome to stay. Here we found account 6435. It's really, it's like the last one before the Board of Finance, Board of Education. It's the last one.
Right after that.
I know, my fingers don't separate.
All right.
I got it.
Got it. All right. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 60-435 and the amount of $988,122.
Second.
Have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Why do you look so
Congratulations.
surprised?
Get her jacket. She's.
Why do you look so surprised?
True, it's my 7th year, and when people ask, it's tough. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to see, and I appreciate, you know, I didn't have a great showing the other night, but.
Technical difficulties, right? Your computer went
I
haywire.
was ready tonight just in case, but I mean, like, Basel changing,
Yeah.
and, you know, since COVID, it's a completely different group of people coming in, and keeping up with that is getting harder and harder. because the demands are changing, so it is really appreciated by myself and the board.
Yeah.
That you guys saw.
Listen, Megan, you know, one thing I've noticed, and you've done a great job of being in touch with the community's needs. You've done that with your programs over the years. You've ebbed and flowed, you've changed, you've been reasonable on your budgets. I, for one, understand the role that you're taking on as more of a community center in many, many ways. And the ability to stay open a little bit longer, the ability to take those other spaces that we have and utilize those for our services and the folks out there. The more you're even talking about doing with seniors, the people who need the most help in the community. I'm really grateful.
I'm very lucky I get to do that.
Can you just do me one favor
Uh-oh.
after listening to the utilities discussion?
Yeah, turn the
Can you
lights
please tell
on.
them to alert, hey, turn the lights off, because when I drive by at like
Well, you
midnight
know-
and I see all the lights on,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
oh.
before I worked here, I couldn't understand it to save my life. Why did we lit up at 10 o'clock at night? But it's because we have one cleaning guy doing the building.
Oh,
And, you know, he's going up and down the stairs all night long. So, you know, we talked about it, but he's flipping light switches.
How about a flashlight?
The old night light.
hey, how about a lantern? That is expensive.
But I think that,
I'll buy the damn thing.
we made, you know, there are things that hopefully we'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Take
day.
care.
Have a good night.
All right, so we're going back to account 10-420. Wish I just noticed it before. I'm like, oh, Megan's in there. God.
She does.
Right. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10-420 in the amount of $850,400. Any discussion?
Capital non-recurring, we set flat.
Yes. Yes. I see Rich is still going through it. So take that. Next one, Rich.
420.
There you go. Let's charge and transfer.
No, I don't have any. Okay. I'm fine.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 10-430 in the amount of $263,614.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I just point out one thing tonight, because I handed out the revenue. I don't have in front of me. The revenue projections for the senior center, it's down year over year. I have it. Peter, let me do it. So that's based on what their actuals have been for revenue. Obviously, everybody knows what COVID did to this, like everywhere, but especially the senior center. When the director and I were speaking about it, they're still trying to get their members to come back fully. So that means they've changed some of the programs. They're offering some more free stuff. They're trying to really help this group that was hit really hard. They haven't been using their activity account as much as they have, but they're trying to still ramp back up. But I didn't want somebody to be looking at it later and go, why did they point out that they're lowering the revenue projection for it? So we did, and once I find it, I will. Senior center. So senior center activity, the current year budget for revenue is $48,000. Last year we collected $23,000. I'm lowering the projection for the mill rate calculation to $24,000. I think eventually they will get back up to a much bigger number. Speaking to Lisa, and then Dan and I talked about it too, is collecting revenue is not really a priority for them right now, serving the seniors. At $24,000, I'd rather be accurate and show what they're actually doing revenue wise than keep the high number in there and then they come short of it. So.
I agree. And Lisa is trying to do some new stuff to get folks in. We're looking for some additional grant money, and with what's happening at the federal and state level right now, the epidemic of loneliness is a thing. And I think we're going to see funding coming to the senior center through that process as well. So,
And if we have to, we could always go back to your budget line, Brad.
There you go.
yeah.
You want to bump it up?
No.
Oh,
No.
just, you know.
Okay. So with that, we have a motion on the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I recommend to the Board of I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 20-180 in the amount of $356,482. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 20-290 in the amount of $46,455. So second. So this is emergency management. Just remember, this is pretty much half of what Tom does, so we'll have the other half in a minute. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding for the account 20-300 in the amount of $114,234. Second. Any discussion? Seeing none in front of your minds, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And no opposed. Ayes have it. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 20-310 in the amount of $217,142. Wait a second. So with this, we did have some discussion with respect to the firefighter gear. I would really like to look at maybe taking that out of ARPA, another source down the line, as basically $5,747. It just, we can take 5,000 of it even to reduce the budget.
Say it again.
So we have gear here of 5747. It's less when we look at Stony Hill's gear number. I don't know why, but it's been back and forth. I would recommend that we look at taking 5,000 out of line 5202 with the purpose of looking down the line if we can maybe take that from another source.
To buy 2 sets,
By
Well, each set's,
yeah, so we're taking away one set. We're buying a set later. Or we're reducing each one $5,000. Yeah, I just want to double check here, make sure I got my little list here. Yeah. Just one set less, and we'll take it out of something else. So I move that we reduce line 5202 by $5,000 for a total of $40,976.
well, you gotta do the bottom line.
It would be
So
73,960.
76.
Oh, I apologize. I'm looking at that. That's up there. Okay, so I move that we remove $5,000 from line 5202 for a new total of $73,966.
So
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any
Nay.
opposed? One nay. Okay, so that makes our new total at 212,142.
Yes,
can I just want to ask one question.
Sure.
On vehicle maintenance 5208, can you tell me what our actual was?
so the actual for the prior year for Bethel Fire Department was 61,749.
So that would take us up to 2,000 and the end of 23,
End of 23.
end of 23. So currently, do we have any idea where they are now?
Yes. So Bethel Fire Department vehicle maintenance, so 5208.
Yep.
No. So the budget was 67,958. So far this year, they spent 18,377.
And how much of that, can you look at the year prior? Did all their inspections happen at the end of the year, or,
So
I mean, what happened there?
So the biggest invoice, the two biggest invoices were the Goins Night, which I think does the inspections. One was 14,000, one was 6,600. They were both paid in May.
So if we added 20,000 to that number where they are right now,
And they have two other Goins, one's for 5,700, one's for another $5,000
so that's
for
30.
May and then June. that were paid. So that was 30,000 of this account was spent in just that one vendor, between May 22nd and June 30th.
So but 8 plus 18, you're at 48,000. I'm just wondering, do we really need a $5,000 increase in this budget line?
I think with the big, yeah, the big driver, I guess, was mandatory vehicle compliance and all the vendors went up.
Right, but I mean, we're not even gonna hit our this year budget. It doesn't appear like we will, does it, Brad? I mean, can you do a 3-month total for March, April, June? I don't know if the computer does that.
Yeah, just let me dump it in Excel, then I can pull that.
Because it's, well, I mean, you're saying that there was an 8% increase over an 8% increase in
Vendors, I mean, that's a pretty steep jump.
Well, most of the vendors were small amounts. I mean, if you look at the page, 52.8, the next page, 5,000 was the price increase for the vendor for the mandatory vehicle compliance inspection. And then the others, testing a hose,
but that's not
That's
vehicle,
CBA.
right? I mean,
vehicle maintenance. Well, that's under stuff on the vehicle, right? 5208, that's what we're looking at?
So the prior year that we have, the full year, and it was 2023, between this point of the year and June 30th, they spent $40,000.
so at 18 seems like they're on target where they were last year.
Yeah, but I don't
That
know.
would be
what-
58,000.
Yeah,
And if you even had a 10% increase on top of that, that would be 5,800.
Yeah.
Which would put you in the mid-60s. Correct?
yeah, but they did, so last year, so the prior year budget was 61,750 and they spent within 54 cents of it. So for 24's budget, they looked at a $6,000 increase in it. So I don't know if those numbers are now 2 year or like a year old, the Goins. I don't know if Goins told them what that rate is, and that's why they bumped their budget up by $6,000. That's the piece that we don't know without them here of why they bumped it up 6,000 last year and why they're bumping it up again this year. Other than now, we can see the accounts. It's, they bumped up the mandatory inspections by $5,000.
Yeah.
And the fire commission reduced that budget line by $2,500 overall also.
Correct.
So the fire commission really scrutinized it.
I understand. I'm just going by last year's actuals, and if I throw 10% on top, I'm still several thousand under the request. We're at 60 what? So we were at this year's requested budget. I mean, last year's requested budget, basically.
Yeah.
Correct?
A little bit above last year's request.
So-
No, last year's
Just do the
request,
math. Where would they be right now? If you add those 3 months to what they've already spent,
they'd be at $58,000, assuming
50.
the 2023 actuals hit again exactly the same in 24.
So even if you put a 20% on top of that, that's about 11,000.
Yeah, so then they come in right at their 24 budget number, which then shows me that then they must have the prices on it. I don't know, Brian, without Chief McCollum here to tell us.
It's also worth saying too that, did they have anything that went wrong last year? Because this is their place. If anything goes sideways, this is where we come out of, right?
Yeah, they have
They have
a various repairs account, which the prior year they could have had the various repairs in the first half of the year, and they might not have had them yet or done them yet.
They
I know-
requested 10,000 in various repairs.
So, but if we take the 40 on top of the 18 and get the 58, if they haven't done those various repairs yet, you get the 68, which is what they budgeted for 20.
I guess this is something we're gonna have to watch next year, because it just seems like a pretty quick jump. And, based on actuals, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're charging, we try to watch that stuff goes in the right account. They've been within $50 of their 21 budget number. They were $947 within their 22 budget, 54 cents within their 23 budget. So I don't know if that means they're doing the repairs based on what they have left at the end of the year, or if
How
it
much
just
did
so
they spend of their total budget last year?
within like $180.
Okay. That's good budget.
Yeah.
I wish I could have
Yeah.
plans like that.
And I know there's conversation with the fire commission that they want to go back to you and
Yeah, we changed the format of it.
Some things are questionable in that account versus
Yeah.
other accounts.
And I know a bunch of departments do this, but I know that the fire departments do this is that both chiefs look at what they have left in April and May and then start fixing things or ordering stuff based on what they have left. You know, Stony Hill returned, I think, like $9,000 last year. Special fire came in at 180. I think it was less than $500. They came in at the budget. So are they taking stuff that they would have done in 24, but they had room for it in 23, so they did it in 23? It's hard to say.
When they come in and the budget is, do we look at that particular account and see where they've come in?
Yeah, like we look at all that stuff, and typically, counting wise, you don't charge it to where you have the budget. You charge it to where it belongs.
Right.
And then we tell the departments, if you know you're trending above here and you can make it up here, make it up there. And some can do it, some can't. Depends on what's really happened in that account.
But they have to report variances to you.
Yeah, we look at it, and now that we're doing the quarterly
Good.
budget reviews, is what we're looking at. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
But typically the library and the Board of Ed you just have bottom line so they can move whatever they want. We look at departments as a whole, and per the charter, Dan and I can move money. We don't officially move it, but we do look at like the department as a whole to make sure they're cutting where they can to make up for overages that they can't control.
I guess what my experience was, and again, I'm not saying it's happening with the fire department, with any department, but just because you have the money in your budget doesn't mean in June it's a mad dash to spend it all.
Correct.
I'd seen it in town operations where, they're throwing tires away because they expired, because they were sitting on a rack, because they bought.
Yeah.
We're not going to punish people for giving money back. And it's not like we're going to reduce your budget next year because you did the right thing if you can defend it. But I'd be curious to see in June, see is spending going up, and if so, by how much percent? And is it stuff because it's when inspections, or are we just saying, hey, buy 20 sets of brake pads or buy this? Because
We do try to control that as much as possible. We're not letting people go, oh, I have money left, what can I order? Typically what we preach to departments is if you can wait, you wait towards the end of the year to make sure that something else didn't go wrong.
what triggers a purchase order for you? Like what dollar amount?
$2,500.
Anything over 2,500, they have to get a purchase order.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a new.
Yeah, that's another control we put in that with what happened in 2023.
All right, we spent enough time out.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move that, I'll amend my motion to recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 20-310 in the amount of $212,143.
Second.
Any further discussion?
You put it on 5,000, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, just making sure that.
Okay, seeing none, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll vote yes for the overall budget.
Understood. Okay, that motion carries out there. I'm gonna make the motion differently this time, like they did back in 2017. See how this flies. Let's see. Okay. I make the motion that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 20320 in the amount of is at $92,450 with a decrease in line 5202 in the amount of $500, excuse me, $5,000 for the total of $71,800. We have a second. Does that make sense?
No,
No?
because it would
Okay,
be
good.
one.
You gotta reduce line 5202.
Sorry, he is.
Yeah,
doing that.
5202.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't see the map.
okay, so what we're doing is we're reducing
Oh, no, he's right.
Take
All
one
right,
He's
step.
right. He said it
Yeah.
would be,
71,800.
71,800. He just did both in one motion. He's right.
Yeah, and that's how they did it last in 17. They did it in one motion. And so I'll repeat the motion to make it clear. I'm recommending the Board of Finance, excuse me, I recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 20-320 in the amount of $192,450, which is a decrease in line 5202, the amount of $5,000, making that total in line of 71,800.
Second.
Okay. This is the same thing we did on the other one. We just kicked out one cent out here, will come from another source. Any further discussion? Okay, bear in mind, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Nay.
Brian, did you vote?
I voted yes.
Okay. And we have one nay. The ayes have it. All right, this one we'll definitely just talk about because it'll be easier. I tried to do it. I guess got too good. Yeah, okay, so I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding in the account 20-360 in the amount of $6,396,542. Have a second.
Second.
All right.
I make a motion.
You want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to cut, $10,000 from police overtime, which is line 5101.
Second. And we've actually talked to the PD. They're okay with it. They don't love it. We know we have to figure out, but they understand what we're doing right now. So you said the line 5101,
5101 salary is police overtime.
and that would be 10,000.
So
So the total would be
189,000, correct?
You gotta do the
the bottom.
salary line is
Bottom.
5,000,000.
723,499, correct?
And with that amendment, second. That amendment. I'll carry lines. All in favor? Aye. And then opposed, that motion carries. Okay, let's see here. Let me find out the next spot.
5,723.
Okay,
Capital
Here we go.
5403.
yep, so I'm just work out the numbers. Do this over here.
You tell me what you want to reduce it by.
We're gonna reduce it by 2 cars at $49.95 each. So that's a total of $99,999.
Well, you
that right?
You can also
There's also changeover.
take out an additional, would that be 15,800 just off the top of my head?
Yeah,
15,800 in two vehicle changeovers.
Okay, 15,000.
So your total.
Wait, 115,000.
so it'll be 115,790
Okay,
to reduce buying 4 new vehicles down to 2 new vehicles, including the changeover.
okay. So I move that let's get the total number. What's the total gonna be for the requested?
So then for the capital equipment line would be 141,790 after the reduction.
Okay. I move that we reduce line 5403 capital equipment by $115,790 for a new total of $141,790. Okay. So we understand we're removing 2 cars. We're really hoping that we can figure out another way to get some cars further down the line. We understand how important it is. But I think given the budget considerations, we should be able to do it from another source down the line.
Yeah, I mean, we added quite a few vehicles to the fleet. How many we did over the past 2 years, bro?
What the top of it is,
In June of 22, from ARPA, a traffic patrol car was purchased. In November of 22, 2 police vehicles were purchased. In March of 23, another police vehicle was purchased. All that was from ARPA
So that didn't include what they got in terms of budget.
operating. Yeah.
So like I said, I mean, if the need's there, we can look at it for sure. Got it. I'm good.
Okay, all in favor of, the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So now, what's our new total?
The new total for the department with those 2 reductions would be $6,270,753.
All right. So I'll amend the original motion. I recommend, or I move, we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 20-360 in the amount of $6,270,753.
Second.
That was the correct number there?
Yes.
With that, I'll try your minds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 30-200 in the amount of $111,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. I move we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 30-350 in the amount of $548,482. Second.
Second.
Okay, so with that, I do have a couple of additional motions. First off, I move that we reduce line 5101 by, let's see if I got this correct. Hold on a second here. Oh, okay. So it's 8. Okay. And just get the right number here, 386. Okay. So I move that reduce the line 5101 salaries by $8,000 for a new total of $381,236. Do I have a second?
Second.
So what this is we're removing the health nurse, which is duplicative. I
Okay.
think the 3,000 has already come out of another part of the budget.
Okay.
The other part is, right now, they're asking for a requested $20,000 for a part-time employee.
Hmm.
Right now, that, she's basically been doing, like 15 a year.
Okay.
So we're just gonna reduce that number down to 15. So she still has the same person doing the same amount of work in her office, but we're cutting a little bit to be more, friendly to the taxpayer. So that is a $8,000 reduction total.
But is
Does that add anything?
is that cutting time, her time?
It doesn't cut any time from what she has now. We're just looking at what she spent in the past. We're just not adding on any additional work.
So she was asking for, I believe, 19 hours a week. The person that's been doing it, because we've had budget through other staff shortages, has been doing like 13 or 15. So this reduction lets her continue what she's doing with this person now that she doesn't have the staff shortages anymore.
Is this person a floater?
No, so they just work part-time in the health department.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me.
So that's a total 8,000 reduction.
Total 8,000 reduction. Okay, with that, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The ayes have it. So I'll amend my original motion then. I move we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 30-350 in the amount of $540,482.
Second.
Any further discussion? I have the number right, Brad?
Yep.
That one was easy.
That was an easy one.
It's late though, so.
Okay.
Now we're doing.
All right. With that, I'll try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. I move we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-220 in the amount of $407,719. Right a second.
Second.
And this is fleet maintenance. I think they've done a pretty good job of narrowing this down. We know this went over significantly last year, but I think we've talked about this a lot, and the Board of Finance has worked with them. I think it's a good number. Any discussion?
Out of curiosity, do they break down their expenses like for parks, or like they have the police department, highway, or do you just look at their budget as a whole?
No, so they break down, so when Ed Hook sends over invoices, he codes what it's for, because it's mostly parks, because they do a lot of the labor on like the parks, the building, the highway department, some of that stuff, and some of the police vehicles have to get outsourced, but everything gets charged to the account that it's for.
Like, can I just get a sample? Like, what did we spend on 5215?
So 5215 last year we spent $71,000.
And they've only requested 46,000.
Yeah, so some of that,
Is there like some sort of major outcome?
yeah, 23 was a bad year for fleet across the board. That's the year they went over by like $133,000. A lot of that was the highway department was over by 84,000 that year. And a lot of it was outsourced work. I think one vendor we paid like $60,000.
What was the year before? So,
For the highway department, the year before that, they went over 25. The year before that, they went over 16.
about the PD?
PD last year they spent 71,000. The year before that they spent 38.8, and their budget was 38.6. The year before that their budget was 38.2, and they spent 34. This year the PD they're already up to $34,000 for that right now. But the problem is it just takes one vehicle to get an issue. I would think that the PD is kind of twofold in the fact that they have more vehicles than they've ever had before, but they have a lot of newer vehicles. Two of the bills in here I'm looking at what's driving up some of the police is we paid Smitty's Auto Body $2,200 and then $2,300. That we might be waiting on reimbursement for that
So
too.
we self-insured that,
It's not self-insured, it's through Kerma. So we have a $500 deductible.
which is a pretty good deductible.
Yeah, so,
Alright.
so that, some of that we could be waiting for money to come back on.
Sure.
So,
Sounds good.
Okay, any further discussion?
No.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-230 in the amount of $466,191. A second? Any discussion?
What were the news? It's pretty much just salaries that have increased, right? And contracted services.
That's it.
Correct.
And the contracted services is really basic engineering work. Remember, they kind of share this account with
I get it.
P&Z. Any further discussion? Now, fair minds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-240 in the amount of $644,547.
Second for discussion.
Yeah, for discussion. I'm also going to recommend another motion to reduce line 5404 by $50,000 for a new total of $1,050,000. A second.
I'll second.
So for discussion, basically what we're doing there is we're taking a little bit off. Listen, the original number they asked for was $1.6 million. And there's no question in my mind, we have a lot to do with our roads, but we need to take baby steps. We were very fortunate to get this over $1 million last year with the good work with the Board of Finance. I think if we make it $1,050,000, basically we're putting in, basically covering for inflation is all we're really
Well,
doing.
you're adding 5%. I
Yep,
mean, that's,
exactly.
that's,
we're still going in the right direction
We are.
and, you know,
And if we're lucky, we'll have some sand and salt left.
I was gonna make a motion and reduce it by 100.
I'm not gonna go for 100 because we just finally got it to 1 million. And this 5% just keeps it up with inflation. But I'll certainly entertain the motion if you want to,
what was,
amend it,
can you
because
give,
you've made a motion.
can you give us the reasoning for a
It's
hundred? Rich,
just-
I just want to hear it out.
It's just that it's $1 million. It's more than we've spent in many years. I know this past year we had $1 million in there. Prior years was three, I don't know why that one. Prior, why do we have an odd number for the prior year? That's what we actually spent.
It's the actual, yeah. So remember, the last year's budget was 850. And then the Board of Finance allowed them to use up to $100,000 from their sand and salt savings for that year.
Maybe
And
we'll have that again.
yeah, and if we do it, and if everything else looks good, they can let them do it and let them get more road work done. But they really asked for 1.6,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
You know. And then you remember from being on the Board of Selectmen for a while, we used to do $2 million worth of roads a year.
well, it used to be get more work done for $2 million.
Yeah.
Now it takes $2 million to get $1 million.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
Sure.
mean, don't forget, we're doing overlaying now, a lot more of that.
Yeah.
When they
Yeah.
did the bond, I mean, we had to, you know, how many roads did we have to rebuild? It was crazy. I mean, it was crazy, the amount of grading and everything that Bob and his crew did.
Oh,
But,
Yeah, I just point out that they're capable of doing $2 million worth of roads. Which the richest one is probably, would be in today's dollars, $2.5 million or whatever.
would like to amend it to $1 million. Let's vote on the motion.
You say what, amend to what now? You say what, amend it to motion?
Well, I would like to amend the motion to
To
take
$1 million?
100,000.
100,000? Do you have a second? I mean,
I think that, you know, the 50,000 increase is reasonable, and I think it keeps us moving in the right direction, because there's no question that, you know, we have to invest in our roads. I mean, I don't ever want to see us bonding $8 million to fix our roads. So I like the idea of baby increases.
But the prior, Brad just mentioned that, you know, they had money left over in the salt sand account that they use.
yeah, we don't know where that'll be yet this year, but.
No, but
Yeah. But again, remember the original number. So first off, with the, we have a motion for an amendment. I will second that motion for the purposes of giving you a vote. Okay? So with that, I will also say, I will not support the motion because we know that they came at 1.6 million, and looking at the list of streets, you know, a lot of those are probably gonna come off. So I really want to stick to $1 million a year. And I think this really gets us, you know, to that point where we do the same thing we did last year. If we go anything less than the 50 grand for inflation, now we're regressing again. And that's kind of just the way I feel about it. But any further discussion for Brian?
Well, and I understand, you know, Richie's point, I understand
I do.
Dan's point. The thing is that we're not gonna have salt and sand every year. And, you know, it was kind of like when we went to certain grants, right? It was all great and good until the grant fell off and now it hit your budget.
the budget.
So, you know, I respect you, but I really like the idea of just gradually continuing our traction. And if the Board of Finance decides they want to use money from salt and sand to pay for more roads, I mean, I'm sure we're going to be over in other areas.
So we have a motion on the floor to amend the original motion. And the original was 1,100,000. The motion now is to amend that to $1 million. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The nays have it. So the motion has not been amended. So the original motion is on the table. For $1,050,000. Any further discussion? I'll try your minds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
And the ayes have it.
For the total, you gotta vote on the total.
Oh, I'm gonna go back to, no. oh, wait.
You're a stickler for the rules.
You're right. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you gotta go back to the original there. What's the number, Brad?
Nope, the total for the department.
Yeah.
So
2,500,000.
2,594,547.
Got it. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance to fund account 40-240 in the amount of $2,594,547. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm just really quick, is the transfer station still operating at a deficit? And how?
Yeah, it doesn't really operate as a deficit anymore because it's not its own fund. But yes, it does not bring in as much money as it costs the general.
How much is it generally lost?
So the revenue line for the transfer station is we're on the sheet right here. So the budget for the upcoming year is 134,500. And the
We're still on
budget
the highway.
request is 216.
No, no. I just want to make sure you were asking something germane to the highway.
Oh, I thought we already voted on that.
No, we're just doing that.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
That's all right. so the motion on the table, I'll say it one more time, just so we're all on the same sheet of music. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-240 in the amount of $2,594,547. And that is an amendment to the original motion, but that's the final number. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'll support that.
Right. Got it. Okay. Next up, I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-245 in the amount of $216,427. Have a second.
Second. I'm sorry,
Now
Becky.
you answer your question.
We're losing about 80K a year on it.
More than that, because this doesn't include the benefits of the employees.
So how much do you think we lose a year on?
Over 100 grand.
Over 100 grand.
I mean, the question down the line is, do we raise the fees
I
or
think-
privatize? I know you like privatization.
Well, I just think the higher the fees go, the less use.
I do too.
I mean, if you're charging, 25 cents a pound to dump, you're talking about $500 a ton. I mean, someone could pay Oak Ridge to pick up their garbage weekly, you know what I mean, for
Yeah.
probably, I don't know what it is now, $45, $50 a month.
$48 a month.
$48 a month. So for $600, they have it picked up right at their house. I don't think raising the fees is the way to get out. And I think it's something maybe we should tackle at another meeting because,
Yeah.
At 500 a ton, I mean, you could rent a 10-yard dumpster delivered to your house that will give you 1 ton of trash for $320. It's just something, it would be nice if there would be a way we can get it to break even.
Yeah.
And
Part of it, we don't get that much back from recyclables and stuff either. There's
Right.
not many markets.
almost if lowering the fees to make it more usable, to see how that
Then
would affect it.
Maybe like volume.
Yeah, volume, you make it up more volume,
Yeah.
And when the fees were raised, we got rid of the permit fee because there used to be a permit fee to try to get more people to use it. And I don't think it successfully brought in. I think the people that use the transfer station are the people that use the transfer.
The plenty of people say it's a unique social microcosm of Bethel
Yeah,
in itself.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that Bethel
Yeah.
doesn't have a transfer station. I'm just wondering, how do we get it to save residents money and not to lose over 100,000 a year on it?
It's probably worth a deep dive, to your point.
Because I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we'll spend quite a bit of time on a $5,000 line item. You're losing 100,000 a year here. I mean,
Yeah.
there's got to be some solution, right?
I know that they looked at it before. There's been all kinds of things. I'm totally willing to look at it and figure out if there's a way.
Oh, I know you are.
Yeah.
So I understand. That's what we got to pay this year.
Okay, any further discussion on the transfer station?
I'll wait before we vote over.
Okay, you're waiting for me to vote. Good.
Boy.
Okay, with that, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, next up. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-260 in the amount of $936,537. Have a second.
Second.
Now, I know we had some conversations earlier, but I don't remember when we decided on this, but it's possible to take is this building maintenance and repairs, right?
Yes.
We were looking at maybe taking $10,000 out of
5207.
5207, because it's still a $25,000 increase.
I would support it.
How is the money?
So last year they spent 220, but one of the things that we've looked at recently, because it came out
Yeah.
during the presentation, is they were coding some of the
Yeah.
fees that should have gone to the transfer station. Because if you look at the transfer stations, the hauling of the trash, because they haul to Oak Ridge,
Yeah.
the actual is only 20. Some of the fees that we spent in the 220 last year really belong to the transfer station. Some of it is Dan's been in office for a year, and I know you were looking at it when you were acting for selectman, is the first selectmen for years have been trying to get a better handle on what maintenance and repairs should be. In past years, this account's been high because one-off projects went through there that probably should have been capital projects. Talked about it before. At one point, I think the gazebo was redone, and it was just pushed through maintenance and repairs. And maintenance and repairs goes over because maintenance, but one-off projects like that
Yeah.
should be capital items. We should just, Yeah. So, it's going up 25 is a step in the right direction. I know it's not the 35 they were looking for. Is the short answer. I probably should start.
So then I'll make a motion that we reduce line 5207 by $10,000 for a total of $205,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? That'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. So I amend the original motion to recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-260 in the amount of $931,537.
926 is a
I screwed it up?
$10,000 reduction,
Oh,
not
thank you.
$5,000 reduction.
926. $926,537.
Second.
Any further discussion? With that, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, ayes have it. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 40-270 in the amount of $171,000, $171,500. Any discussion?
The tree warden salary is going up 3,600.
It went
Yeah.
up already.
First-
That just reflects what the
Yeah.
actual is.
First time in, what, 10 years?
10 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. And they asked the first selectman to look at it. He looked at it and go, oh, we haven't done, I think it's actually 12 or 13 years.
Yeah. It was pretty significant.
There's still a lot of trees.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
A lot of dead ash trees.
Oh, yeah.
The maples are next.
Beech,
Yeah.
really, beech have already started to get wiped out by that leaf disease.
Really? Same one?
No, it's a different,
Okay.
some new leaf disease.
All right, we have a motion on the table. I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance funding account 50-440 in the amount of $5,269,569.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Brad, you want to go through?
So the
We talked
The
about.
original plan.
Yeah.
Called for it going down by $57,000. We looked at it, that would have left 600,000. Because of how hard the reval hit people, we took another 100,000 from the debt service account to make it $157,000 reduction. At the end of the plan, we still have 500,000. Doing any more than that wouldn't make me feel comfortable, but being in year 3 and what we're looking at, I think it made sense.
Great.
And again, this is predicated that we don't take on any new debt
Yeah.
through 2020, 2000, middle part 2030.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got, 6 more years with no bonding.
Well, the,
And I heard the middle school come up.
10 years. Yeah.
10
but
years.
the roofs,
Roofs before.
the roofs are probably the next thing that we know about right now.
Yeah.
That the town is gonna probably have to bond because it probably makes sense to do it as one project. Because dealing with the state to get a school construction project approved and everything, you're better off probably doing it once instead of having 3 separate projects. I don't know where we're gonna be at when it's time to do that fund balance wise, but if it's $7-8 million, I don't think we're gonna be able to do $7 or $8 million without
You have to do short term.
short term and then hopefully paying the short term off.
We'll talk about it. The thing I don't like about doing them all at once is you're setting up yourself
Yeah.
up for the same problem.
Right.
Do them all at once, it would be nice if we could get into like, and the schools do a pretty good job of showing what they need over the next 10 years, but I mean, I understand you get the grant, but I think it really depends on what the grant is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 40% would be great. I mean, 47% of,
Yeah.
Well, we'll see
5
what we,
million is a lot of money.
we just spent that money to repair them. I mean, I know maybe we get a little longer out of it.
Yeah.
For a couple of them.
You never
Yeah,
know.
spread 'em out.
See, I didn't know, did they do the whole roof or they just patch parts of it?
Parts.
They just did some flashing and patching.
Patching, so they just
It
put
was just to
that,
get 3 more years.
the
on it.
black asphalt down on some leaks.
Yeah.
So honestly, I mean, they might be able to get longer out of it if they keep, a new leak comes up, you go over it with the asphalt. We just did it on one of our
They asked for
buildings.
27 and we upped it to 50. And I think they did some additional work. to
Yeah, that's
get more
good.
time.
So maybe we'll get more.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Be great.
Honestly, I don't know what it costs to have somebody come out and look at, they should have somebody come out and look at those roofs probably every 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
'Cause if
every,
you
every,
run
year-
it-
every year they should
Yeah.
have a roof inspection.
Yeah.
They have service contracts.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I do know.
Yeah, with that, we have a motion on the table. All in favor?
Alright,
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
so is this where Brad gives us our final numbers?
So, yeah, we have, gone through the whole list.
Been through.
Brad,
Yeah.
how many dollars in cuts did we just do?
So-
414,754.
Correct.
That was including that we put the
Extra 10 PD.
no, the 15,800 for the changeover to the vehicles. We
Yeah.
took that.
Yeah.
115,790, yeah.
Correct.
That's
So what's the final number?
we cut $414,754 from the budget.
So the pieces so you need to vote on 3 numbers still.
Yeah.
Town operating. So the new town operating budget number is 31,686,511. So 31,686,511. And then you need the total town budget, which includes the debt, which you voted on, and the Board of Ed maintenance, which was voted on. So the total town budget number is 37,482,097. Actually, I don't think you need to vote on the total town operating because I think you need to vote on the,
Can I show you what we did
Just,
last
the
year?
total- yeah, what did we do last time?
Town budget, which includes. the
yeah, so
operating
you just
budget.
need the total
Right.
town budget,
Okay, that's what.
which is 37,482,097,
Do I say includes?
that includes the town operating, the debt service, and the Board of Ed maintenance.
Okay,
And then you'll need to vote on the total. I don't know if you need to vote on the total because that's not how it shows up on.
Well,
No, I'll give you the number though. So the total budget then, including the Board of Education, would be $92,233,229.
because we've already voted on the Board of Ed budget, we don't have to do a total.
Correct.
What's the total spending increase?
So the spending increase versus what was voted on last April is 3,916,730 or 4.41%.
You're talking about since we adjusted Parks and Rec's budget.
After the adjusted of Park and Rec, It's a $3,597,730 increase, or 4.04, which that's everything. That's bottom line, the $92 million.
And what's the increase in the mill?
So the estimated mill rate based on what we know right now, the proposed mill rate would be 29.08, which is a 2.3% increase.
2.3%.
Yeah,
So what's the,
0.3
actual-
even now?
2.3 even.
that's the percent increase in your taxes,
Correct.
but the mill's going up what?
0.65.
And just to go over the cuts, just to make sure we got them all.
Yeah.
We had 10,000 from the 2360 account. We had 5,000 from the 2320. We had 5,000 from 2310. We had 100,000 that was from,
Hold on, there's something, go through those one more time.
we took 10,000 out
Yep.
of 2360.
Yep,
We took 5,000 out of 2320. We took 5,
2320.
that was one of the fire.
The firehouse.
Firehouse.
Oh, okay, because that's just not the same.
We have a 5,000 out of Stony Hill Firehouse.
Yep.
We took 100K from the 460 account.
Yep.
We took $35,964 from Parks and Rec.
No, P&Z.
P&Z, I mean. We took 75,000 out of the paramedics.
Mhm.
Then we took another 115,790 out of the PD account. Then we took 8,000 out of the health department.
Mhm.
And then we took 50,000 out of highway.
Mhm.
And we just did another 10,000 that we took out of building maintenance.
Correct.
I think you said building maintenance twice.
No.
The
No, it
extra-
started with the PD
No,
overtime.
Oh, the PD overtime, because that's
So
what
are
the
we-
other 10 is, yeah.
So are we sure we're 100% on those numbers? Because I feel like we added 17K that we had never talked about, and the number's the same.
So earlier today, when Dan and I were running the numbers, we had the police number for the police cars at 115,790.
Oh, so you had it right.
We had it at the 100. We had it with the including the
Okay.
changeover. We didn't have the PD overtime.
So 10,000.
Yeah, that was,
And you already had, you already figured if you moved the building maintenance 10K.
Correct.
yeah, the 10K PD we didn't talk about, that changed it from 0.66 to 0.65.
So the actual tax increase would be 2.3%.
Correct.
But the actual budget increase, the spending increase, which we,
And the reason that the tax increase isn't as high as the spending increase,
grand list growth.
grand list growth, the growth in the ECS,
Yeah.
it's the use of the tax stabilization fund at the tune of $500,000 that we're, it's in my revenue number in this mill rate calculation, which hasn't been funded to the tune of 500,000. It's a job that the Board of Finance is gonna hopefully uptake soon. And then use as part of the town meeting. So those are and it's like, there's increases in general fund interest. There's other revenue pieces that change.
How much increase was attributed to debt service?
How much of the increase?
Yeah.
Debt service is down, so
So there was no increase.
Yes. like debt service is down $157,000 or 2.9%. Because we're using the debt service fund. Really.
Alright.
Do you want to talk about the other factor in we have to talk about it loosely because of its.
So there, we do have a couple of tax appeals, what do you say, tax appeal out there?
Yeah.
That still could affect the bottom line. Yeah, but right now, I think the number that we're using in the budget is okay. Could change.
Yeah.
Yeah, for or against this, we don't
Yeah.
know, but. Yeah. Good enough? Okay. All right, so, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Finance the total town budget, funding the total town budget of $37,482,097, which includes a town operating budget of $31,686,511.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Before we go, did we have an issue or something?
You have one other piece of business.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Is
Any
the board,
opposed?
oh, yeah.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. Okay.
So the other piece of business is, it hasn't the last couple of years, but is the Board of Selectmen recommending any capital purchases as part of the budget at this point? Obviously, we had a discussion earlier at the meeting before this about the fire department truck. I don't know if there's enough information right now.
We said we could pick it up at the next meeting.
Yeah.
If the guy says, yeah, we're interested in holding it for you.
Yeah.
But if not, I don't think there's any rush to make a recommendation.
Well, here's the thing, if we do it now, then we're not doing it separately, like a separate process. We're doing a part of this process. And we would be picking the number and getting it on the referendum in April.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, we'd have to vote on it at the next meeting, then do a separate public hearing?
So there's still time to get a number on the budget referendum for capital.
Yeah.
Because the Board of Finance still has an opportunity to adjust the budget after the public hearing. So once the Board of Finance acts right after the public hearing, the next day, I think, is the schedule of the public hearing, because we need time to publish. Once it go to the town meeting, the number is locked, other than it could be reduced at the town meeting. So up until the point of that last Board of Finance meeting, the Board of Finance has the opportunity to put an item or to adjust the budget, operating budget and also capital budget. So because you're kind of late in the game with what happened tonight, my recommendation would be to probably, the Board of Selectmen's not currently recommending any capital purchases. And that's what'll go to the Board of Finance. If the Board of Selectmen would still have to approve, I think, that purchase at some point, but you'd have time to have a special to approve that if that's the way the Board of Selectmen wanted to approve, like a not to exceed or whatever.
Yeah.
For the Board of Finance. I don't think you have enough information to act on.
No, I mean, I think we're looking at not to exceed, but we don't know that number, really.
Yeah, I mean, and based on the salesman, you said they're not gonna do it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to get this done.
No, I mean, I think getting it on the referendum would be
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have some time to.
Yeah, not
the
at 10:30
numbers.
at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus I gotta read my Pierce book.
There you go.
The
Okay.
full report.
So that would be
Oh, you get a-
that would be the final piece of business if we were to do it.
Correct. So and if you don't vote on a capital, there's just no capital recommendation to the Board of Finance.
But that doesn't preclude the Board of Finance from buying something if they so choose.
Correct.
And that doesn't preclude us from recommending it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because really, until they meet the meeting after the public hearing, the Board of Selectmen at any point could meet and make a recommendation that we think this should be added to the budget.
Yeah.
And the Board of Finance could do with that whatever they want. But ideally, you'd probably want to do a bid waiver at the same time if Firematic/Pierce say, yeah, you know what? Typically, we sell these things in 30 seconds, but Bethel, we love you.
Yeah.
We'll let you do it. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Okay.
but I just wanted to make sure that we at
We had
least
thought about it. talked about it.
discussed it, and then the board chose to or to not act on a capital.
I mean, every other piece of capital we've been doing as it comes up. So let's have the discussion on that meeting. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Rich, we'll wait and have
Yeah.
the discussion. Next one. Okay. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Before we adjourn, I would just like to thank you, Brad. Nick was a part of it. I really can't remember a budget process in recent history where so much work went into crafting a very fair and balanced budget for the taxpayers. I appreciate all your guys' effort. Now we can adjourn.
You know, All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
He's staying here.
I waited for the fix.
But you didn't get them all. It's
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
saw you. You want to hand
That's
that?
after the original, like, 790.
Mary, like I said, you know who the true gentleman is. He's been doing this for how many years? Now everyone wants to jump on.
It was painful.
So there's still meeting then Thursday.
No meeting Thursday. No need to. We just.
With the.
Sure.
I'm out.